This video is about PTE Academic Listening. Have you ever finished a PTE Academic Listening test and thought, wait, I know English, I understood most of what they were saying, so why did I get such a low score? If you have ever asked yourself that question, then today's lesson is probably going to change the way you think about listening forever. Your ears are not the problem, your brain is. Now, before you get offended, let me explain. Imagine you are sitting in a busy coffee shop. The coffee machine is making noise. People are chatting. Someone is laughing. A baby is crying. The barista is calling out orders. Soft music is playing in the background. Let me ask you a question. Did your ears hear all those sounds? Yes, they did. But did you pay attention to every single one of them? Probably not. Now imagine someone across the room suddenly says your name. Immediately your attention shifts. You look up without even thinking. Did your ears suddenly become better? Of course not. Your brain simply decided that your name was important. That's how your brain works. It constantly filters information and decides what deserves your attention. And that's exactly what PT academic listening is testing. It's not testing whether you can hear English, it's testing whether your brain can identify the information that truly matters. Here's where almost every candidate makes a mistake. They think listening means hearing every single word. But let me tell you something that might surprise you. Listening is not about collecting words. Listening is about deciding which words deserve your attention. There's a huge difference, right? Let me prove it to you. Imagine I say this. Yesterday morning, after driving for nearly 2 hours through heavy traffic, I finally reached the airport. Unfortunately, my passport had expired 3 days earlier, so I wasn't allowed to board my flight. Now, if I ask you, why wasn't I allowed to board the flight? The correct answer is because my passport had expired. Did you need to remember that it was yesterday morning? No. Did you need to remember the 2 hour drive? No. Did you need to remember the heavy traffic? No. Those details make the story interesting, but they don't answer the question. That's exactly what happens in PTA academic listening. Many candidates focus on every word, while high scorers focus only on the information that actually answers the question. Remember, hearing is receiving sounds, listening is identifying what matters. Now, let's talk about something that nobody really explains: interesting information versus important information. During the exam, your brain is constantly making decisions. Unfortunately, most of those decisions are wrong. Do you know the reason? Because your brain confuses interesting information with important information. Now, you need to think like a detective, not a recorder. Let's say Sherlock Holmes walks into a crime scene. What does he notice? Does he admire the furniture? Does he talk about the curtains? Of course not. He's looking for clues, right? So, listening in PTE Academic works exactly the same way. Have you ever wondered how two students can listen to exactly the same recording, yet one scores 85 and the other scores 45? The speaker did not change, the recording did not change. So, what changed? The way their brain processed the information. Imagine the recording says, although the conference was originally scheduled for Monday, unexpected weather conditions forced the organizers to postpone it until Thursday. Now imagine two students listening to this. Student A writes conference, Monday, weather, organizers. They are trying to write every word they hear. But student B listens differently. They think, what's the main message here? They write only conference postponed Thursday. Now, if the question is, when will the conference takes place? Who gets the answer right? Of course, student B. Student A heard the same recording, but their attention was scattered across many details. But student B focused on the information that actually mattered. That's the difference between an average score and a high score. High scorers don't have better ears, they have better focus. They don't try to remember everything, they identify what's important. Okay? Now, this is something unusual that I'm going to tell you. You should know how your brain filters information. So I call it as a Hyundai Creta experiment. Imagine you have just bought a white Hyundai Creta. Before buying it, did you notice how many Cretas were on the road? Probably not. After buying one, suddenly they are everywhere. Did the whole city suddenly decided to buy the same car? No. Your brain simply decided this information is important now. Psychologists call this selective attention. I like to think of the brain as a security guard standing at the entrance of a building. Every second, thousands of pieces of information knock on the door. Sounds, voices, colors, smells, thoughts. The security guards asks only one question. Is this important? If the answer is no, the information never gets inside. That's exactly what's happening during your listening test. Okay? Now, the next one is you need to stop collecting words and you have to start looking for meaning. This is the biggest mistake I see students make. They are trying to catch every single word. Imagine trying to catch every raindrop during a thunderstorm. Impossible. Instead, you have to listen for meaning, relationships. You have to listen for the decisions, and you need to listen for changes in ideas. The next one is the jigsaw puzzle analogy. Remember, I'm giving you so many strategies and tips. Kindly make a note of it so that you can apply it in your real exam. Imagine you're building 1,000 piece jigsaw puzzle. Do you start by analyzing every single tiny piece? No. You begin with the corners, then the edges, then you group similar colors together. Listening works exactly the same way. Okay? Now, here is an example that I want you to understand. For many years, people assumed that online learning was less effective than traditional classroom learning because students had fewer opportunities for a face to face interaction. However, a recent study conducted by researchers from several universities found something interesting. They discovered that students who actively participated in online discussions, asked questions, collaborated with classmates through digital platforms often achieved academic results that were equal to, or in some cases, even better than those of students attending conventional classrooms. The researchers concluded that the effectiveness of learning depends less on the location of the class and more on how actively students engage with the learning process. Most students try to remember everything. They write many years less effective face to face interaction, researchers, several universities, online discussions, conventional classrooms, learning process. By the time the recording ends, their notes look like a shopping list. They heard everything, but they haven't processed anything. A high scorer listens differently. Their brain keeps asking one question: what is the speaker actually trying to tell me? As they listen, they notice a change in direction. The speaker begins with an old belief. People assumed online learning was less effective. Then comes the turning point. However, remember what we discussed earlier words like however, but, although, yet, and instead are like traffic signs, right? They tell your brain, pay attention, something important is coming. After hearing, however, the listener becomes more alert. Then the speaker says, research found that active online learners perform just as well or even better than traditional classroom students. And finally, the success of learning depends on engagement, not the physical location of the class. Now, the listener has found the meaning. Their notes might simply say, old belief, online learning worse. Research, what the research is about. And the main idea, engagement matters more than location. That's it. They did not try to catch every raindrop. They looked for the meaning. They listened like detectives. They identified the relationships and change in ideas. And that is exactly what PTE academic listening rewards. Got it? So, whenever you listen to a PTE academic listening recording, imagine your brain is a detective. Don't write everything, don't chase every word. Instead, keep asking yourself, what's the speaker really trying to tell me? Which information answers the question? Did the speaker change direction? And what's the final takeaway? Got it? Because High scorers don't have superhuman ears. They simply train their brains to ignore the noise and focus on meaning. Got it? So that's all for today's video. Kindly like, share, and subscribe for more PTE academic tips. See you in the next video. Bye bye.